EMS is a rapidly changing environment. There's always new technology designed to save somebody's life, and all of it's technology based. It's all using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And so anytime you're streaming multiple platforms to a cellular service or Wi-Fi platform, I think having that advantage of being first in line in the cellular service is a great advantage, and certainly could mean the difference between life and death in a patient's. We have a drone program that has really taken off, no pun intended, and we tested that at a Gator football game, 90,000 screaming fans. We were able to give HD quality streaming directly to our command center without any interruption or lag. So we thought the best test of FirstNet's capability would be to see how proficient it was at streaming our live HD quality video feed right to the command center so that we could see everything that was going on inside the stadium. And within seconds, we had a crystal clear picture. It was real time and offered real time surveillance of what was going on. We had a report of a patient that had fallen, and we weren't getting a real good idea of where they were outside the stadium. And we couldn't get crews out there very quickly, but our drone was able to fly right over the area, look down, zoom right in, and before crews ever arrived, we were able to kind of get a first-hand look at what was going on with the patient, their condition, whether they're awake or unconscious, and relay that information via FirstNet over to our crews that were responding. It was a great service and provided really timely care to that patient.
Hello, I'm Ed Parkinson, CEO of the FirstNet Authority. I'm pleased to be joining you from Washington, D.C. for IWCE's virtual conference. For those of you who have been part of the conversation at IWCE for a number of years are likely very familiar with FirstNet. In fact, IWCE was one of the very first forums to discuss the idea of a single nationwide public safety broadband network many years ago. I've had the pleasure to work alongside many of you to enhance public safety communications over the last decade. This goes back to my time as a staffer when I was working in Congress to work on the legislation that would ultimately create FirstNet, and then being lucky enough to join the authority as one of the first employees. And now I'm incredibly fortunate to be sitting here today as CEO. What a journey it has been, thinking back to consulting with all 56 states and territories in the very early days, back in 2014, 2015, developing the RFP, working to understand how to stimulate the public safety broadband marketplace, to deliver network solutions, and all the way to now, where we just recently taken our first steps to invest back into the network, which is what I'll talk a little bit more on a little bit later. Certainly, public safety's fight for their own network goes back even further, with the concept of FirstNet coming together following the terrorist attacks of 9/11. I remember attending IWCE after the legislation passed, and the discussions that public safety and industry were having on how to shape the network and the advances that it might bring to public safety. From features like preemption, priority, that were never available before, to new capabilities like remote telehealth, connected drones, as you just saw in the video with the city of Gainesville, Florida. For many, many years, these were just ideas, just concepts, aspirations, if you will. But we were thinking big, and we were thinking creatively about the art of the possible for public safety. I recall hearing conversations in the hallways and presentations about bringing new technology to life for public safety, just like drones. And here we are today. FirstNet is a reality, and many of those concepts are being used every single day by public safety, helping to keep themselves and our communities safe. And much of the success is due to the fact that public safety and industry partners such as you stepped up for our nation's first responders. Now let's take a look at where we are today with FirstNet and where we are hopefully going in the future. FirstNet is deployed nationwide, and our partner AT&T continues to rapidly deploy to expand the footprint of the network, not just in urban and suburban areas, but most importantly into our rural communities. We have seen FirstNet's impact and momentum increase across the country. New FirstNet cell sites are being deployed in every state, providing coverage to understated areas and increased capacity for first responders. This includes dozens of newly announced sites from New York to Indiana and Wyoming, just to name a few. These sites are part of the FirstNet state plans and are being built based upon public safety input and where they say they needed coverage the most. Last year alone, AT&T added 120,000 square miles to its network overall. That's more than twice the coverage growth from the previous year, or an area equal to the entire state of New Mexico. Recently, AT&T said it had reached 80% of its nationwide build of Band 14 under the FirstNet contract. And we are only just over halfway through that initial 5-year initial build out. These deployments are even more impressive when you factor into the demand of the network. Adoption has had a lot of momentum. Public safety users continue to grow, with over 13,000 agencies and organizations comprising more than 1.5 million connections now using the FirstNet system. FirstNet has supported public safety throughout natural disasters, including fires, earthquakes, hurricanes, and now an unprecedented global pandemic. Let's talk a little bit more about that and the impact of COVID-19. Since the pandemic is top of the mind to all of us when one thinks of our families, our work colleagues, and individually, it's important that we spend a little bit of time talking about how FirstNet's had an impact on public safety response throughout the country. At the time of the passage of the legislation around 8.5 years ago, it was hard to imagine the environment in which we find ourselves today, or even when we were drafting the RFP, or even delivering the state plans. But when we traveled the country back in 2014, 2015, and ongoing throughout the program today, and we listened to public safety, they were unanimous on the need of a single nationwide network, nothing short of all 56 states, territories, and DC being combined into this single system. On top of the communications network to confront man-made disasters, public safety told us their need that this network had to help with regional emergencies like hurricanes, and even local incidents, and specifically day-to-day operations. A fully interoperable platform, which FirstNet is, to connect responders across the country. Public safety wanted their own dedicated network that had to be available 24/7, 365, and had to be able to respond to national emergencies that impacts all of us. There was no compromise. That was what was needed. And this is what public safety told us, and this is what we are proud to be able to deliver today. We're seeing a huge increase in the use of FirstNet through this pandemic, and that is helping public safety carry out their mission. Healthcare workers and responders that are using it at COVID-19 testing facilities, field hospitals, and incident command posts across the country. In fact, not only are we seeing an increase in the use of data to confront the pandemic at nearly double the rate of commercial user traffic, we are also seeing examples of innovative ideas on how public safety take advantage of things like telehealth, telemedicine, and how these are designing creative ways to integrate the network into their operations. Requests for FirstNet portable cell sites have totaled more than 75 requests for both pandemic and other emergency operations going back to March. This includes providing connectivity to the Navy hospital ship Mercy when it was docked in the Port of Los Angeles. The network has also connected mutual aid efforts, including situations where ambulances were called in to assist other outside hard-hit regions. Paramedics using FirstNet devices and enhanced push-to-talk to seamlessly communicate has been fascinating to watch. The seamless interoperability that FirstNet offers is enabling these agencies to work together with neighboring agencies. As I mentioned earlier, public safety agencies are also coming up with innovative new ways to use FirstNet in response to the pandemic. For example, hotspots and smartphones powered by FirstNet are enabling 911 dispatchers to take calls and dispatch operations from their places of home and remote locations. This enables agencies to allow for social distancing amongst their staff, keeping these frontline essential workers safe so they can continue to serve their communities. The network is also supporting the use of telemedicine as healthcare facilities are increasingly using telehealth applications to treat patients from a distance. What is abundantly clear is that this pandemic has underscored the need for a single nationwide interoperable public safety broadband network for first responders. One example of the interoperability that FirstNet brings is in the state of Indiana, where they have integrated push-to-talk applications using FirstNet with their land mobile radio network. FirstNet provided seamless interoperability with the statewide radio system, which helped multi-agency communications and improved operations for the distribution of personal protective equipment to local communities. Even today, we continue to work with public safety, even though we can't be in the same room. All of our engagements over the past few months have been virtual. They've become just as inclusive and collaborative. We continue to push forward in this area. For the pandemic, we plan to gather public safety use cases and best practices from the response to COVID-19 so that agencies and practitioners can learn from one another and further understand how public safety broadband can support their communications needs. Overall, it's very encouraging to see the marketplace deliver for public safety, and we are seeing public safety respond. There is now true competition and choice in the marketplace. Public safety is in turn embracing FirstNet. Having been with the FirstNet Authority from the beginning, I'm so proud of the way that the organization has continued to evolve and support our constituents. I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about our team and why the FirstNet Authority is unique. First, when you talk about the organization, it's important to view the FirstNet Authority in the context of oversight of the project. We have that sole responsibility to provide oversight over AT&T and the deployment of public safety's network. FirstNet is the only network that has an entity focused on ensuring that we continue to deliver for our nation's responders, and our dedicated staff at the Authority is solely focused on FirstNet's critical communications needs, not the bottom line. Since 2012, we've been supported in our efforts by more than 40 national public safety associations via our Public Safety Advisory Committee, the PSAC. The PSAC is designated by law to guide the network. The committee's feedback continues to be critical as we evolve the network, particularly with input from our FirstNet Authority roadmap. What's also important is that these individuals are voluntarily giving up their time. And that just shows the dedication of Todd Early, chair of the PSAC, and the entire PSAC EC and membership. And it's amazing to see these dedicated men and women putting public safety first every single day. Other ways that the FirstNet Authority is uniquely supporting public safety is by working with agencies to help them think about their operations today, but also the future. Since day one, the Authority has asked them, what can you do to improve public safety if you had unthrottled, untethered, robust, reliable mobile broadband? And that is what FirstNet is. This is how we get to where we are today, with drones being integrated into daily operations, with public safety, creating new ways to use the network during the pandemic. Our goal is to keep this momentum going, and there are many, many ways to engage during this time. I highly encourage all of you to visit FirstNet.gov, where we recently launched pages for each state and territory. You can find the latest on the FirstNet build-out in your state and see how other agencies may be using the FirstNet dedicated connection. You can also find the contact information for your own state FirstNet Public Safety Advisor on the state's page. Please reach out to them. Their email and phone number and all their contact information is right there. Our staff is here to support your use of FirstNet and to engage with you on how we can improve not only the FirstNet service, but the FirstNet customer service. The FirstNet Authority also has a key role in continuing to understand how FirstNet can help with achieving public safety's life-saving mission and bring their needs for technology forward so as to educate industry and advance solutions to meet these needs. Our FirstNet Authority roadmap is a key driver in everything we do. Since it's been a year since its release, it continues to set the course for how we want to direct improvements and growth into our network. And with our recent investment decisions, you can see how it directly leads to network upgrades. Public safety informs the roadmap activities, and then this roadmap is used to direct, identify, prioritize, and ultimately execute on opportunities for investments back into the network. We approved our recent investments at our recent board meeting in June, over $200 million to lay the groundwork for 5G and to expand the dedicated FirstNet deployable resources that help communities, and again, are at zero cost to FirstNet subscribers. This investment was the first step towards preparing the network for the future of 5G, and will ensure that our dedicated public safety core is ready when 5G is public safety ready. All of this is preparing us for a future where massive IoT will help public safety operations. Ultimately, FirstNet, public safety, and 5G. Let's think about that for a moment. Taking us back to pre-FirstNet legislations, there are many who thought we couldn't get here, yet here we are. Now, FirstNet is a reality, and we are moving into a stage of strategic investment, fulfilling the sustainable business model to support and expand public safety's network. We will be continuing to invest in the network and innovations to ensure that it continues to evolve and deliver for public safety. Over the decades to come, we will invest billions of dollars into the network and towards innovation based off public safety's input. Because ultimately, there's nothing like putting the tool in the hands of public safety and seeing them come up with creative and innovative new ways to use our system. Our investments will make sure that new technologies are reliable enough and customized to public safety. These investments are another way that we are not just a communication service. FirstNet is a public service for public safety. Many of you tuning in today were critical in bringing feedback and ideas forward from both public safety and industry to develop the concept of FirstNet, and I thank you. The entire public safety group thanks you. It's been an incredible journey. We have much more work to do, and I can't wait to get to it. So thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate everyone coming together at IWCE. Thank you.